everyone, it's Heather, and I have a Mother's Day card to share with you today that I created with the Framed Roses cutting plate. I cut out the Framed Roses cutting plate out of some toffee cardstock. It doesn't matter what color cardstock you use, and I'm going to tape it down on a piece of watercolor cardstock to use it as a stencil. I'm also putting that middle piece back in so I kind of protect my work a little bit from my inky fingers. To color in the stencil, I'm using the liquid watercolors. I'm going to use Guava liquid watercolor for the flowers and Pea Pod liquid watercolor for the leaves. One thing about using watercolor to add color into a stencil like this is you need to find a happy medium between I need more water on my brush or I have too much water on my brush. And the reason for that is if you have too much water and it's just too wet, the color is going to flow underneath the stencil and it's going to just make a big puddle and you're not going to really see the images come through. So just be aware that you don't want things to be too wet. You are going to notice that even though you're trying to keep things not super wet, some color will flow, and that's the nature of watercolor, is it does move like that and it will add to the artistic design, but you just don't want things to be a big wet puddle. So I'm going to do all of the flowers in this Guava liquid watercolor, and I'm painting in each little area, and there is no right or wrong way to do this. You don't have to do any special shading, you just have to color in the areas. You might decide to dilute the color so that you have a little bit lighter pinky color on some areas, and also you might want some of the flower areas to be darker. Overall, you're going to have just a really beautiful stained glass effect as a result of painting in all these sections with watercolor. Alright, I am ready to move on to adding color to all of the leaves in the Framed Roses cutting plate, and I am going to use the Pea Pod liquid watercolor to do that. Once I have all the flowers and leaves colored in, I wanted something to kind of be a neutral in between them so that you could still see all the sections, and so I'm using toffee liquid watercolor to do that, and toffee just adds that really pretty light neutral tan in between each of the leaves and flowers. Alright, once I've got it all watercolored in, I'm peeling up the washi tape and I'm going to reveal my stenciled image underneath. And there it is. I really like how this turned out. Sometimes when you do stuff and you don't exactly know what it's going to be, and this was one of those. Really happy. I really loved it. So next I'm adding a few speckles. This is something I like to do. I'm just putting a little bit of Guava watercolor on my brush and just tapping it on my finger to just put a few little speckles across, and I'm also going to do that with toffee liquid watercolor as well. So I'm just loading my brush with some of that watercolor and then again tapping it on my finger across my project. I'm going to add the sentiment to my card with the new frame script Happy die. All of the frame script dies are designed to fit perfectly inside the framed roses cutting plate. I'm going to stamp Mother's Day from the Caps Lock Companion Happy Holidays set onto a piece of toffee cardstock. I'm setting up the cardstock and the stamp into my MISTI. Once I get it where I want it, I pick it up with the cover of the MISTI. I'm adjusting it, but I actually die cut this out, so it really didn't matter. I'm stamping with Sugar Cube ink, and I love stamping with Sugar Cube ink, and I know some people have issues with the brightness of it on your project. Using a stamp positioner like a MISTI allows you to stamp several layers of the white ink and make sure your ink isn't too heavy on your stamp, and just use light layers, and you're just going to have a nice, bright, white, crisp image. So next I'm putting the Happy frame script Happy onto my watercolored frame. I used pink champagne cardstock, and I actually did a couple layers just to make it stick up just a little bit more than just one layer, and getting that centered into the middle. And then I die cut out the Mother's Day, and I'm just going to add that right underneath the Happy. There's just a perfect spot there to add really any sort of sentiment that you want to add to Happy. Happy birthday, Happy Mother's Day, Happy Father's Day, Happy wedding. You could use this for so many different occasions. It's so versatile. I'm adding that little Mother's Day flag, and I popped it up with just a little bit of foam tape, and then I'm just going to add that to a white card base to finish off my card. Here it is, and it's ready to deliver for Mother's Day.